Welcome to Spiritual Foundations for Life. This is day number 305. Satan is too clever and too subtle to tempt committed Christians to do very perverse and grossly immoral deeds. He knows that they will recognize the blatant wrong in such temptations and just refuse to act on them. So instead, Satan's tactic is to push something good beyond the will of God until it becomes sin. He treats us like that frog in the frog of hot water, gradually turning up the heat of temptation in the hopes that we won't notice that how hot the water really is, and we won't notice that we're approaching the boundary of God's will. Because if we did, we'd jump out before it became sin. Proverbs chapter 25 verse 16 says, "If you find honey, eat just enough. Too much of it and you will vomit." In other words, do all things in moderation. See, Apostle Paul wrote in 1 Corinthians chapter 6 verse 12, "I have the right to do anything, but not everything is beneficial. I have the right to do anything, but I will not be mastered by anything." Paul saw nothing but green lights in every direction of his Christian life. Everything is good and lawful for us because we're free from sin and we're no longer under the condemnation of the law. However, Paul also knew that if we irresponsibly speed our lives in any of those good and lawful directions, we will eventually run the red light of God's will and crash and burn. Having a glass of wine with your meal is fine, but drinking the whole bottle is not good at all. Well, is it really possible to have too much of a good thing? Well, physical rest can become laziness. Quietness can become non-communication. The ability to profit can become greed. The enjoyment of life can become self-indulgence. Physical pleasure can become sensuality. Interest in the possessions of others can become covetousness. Enjoyment of food can become gluttony. Self-care can become selfishness. Self-respect can become conceit. Communication can become gossip. Cautiousness can become insensitivity. Anger can become a bad temper and rage. Loving kindness can become overprotection. Judgment can become criticism. Same-sex friendships can become homosexuality and lesbianism. Sexual freedom can become immorality. Conscientiousness can become perfectionism. Generosity can become wastefulness. Self-protection can become dishonesty. Carefulness can become fear. See, if the devil can't make you immoral, he will drive you to an extreme. One time, a pastor was surprised when the wife of his associate asked for a special personal appointment, and she was the hardest worker in the church. But what the pastor didn't know was that she was also the most driven person in the church. Keeping busy was her way of really keeping her sanity. And such is the case of many workaholics. They just can't tolerate being still or being alone. See, it is the devil who drives you. God only leads you. I'll say that again. It is the devil who drives you. God only leads you. One person who went through the steps to freedom in Christ really said it well. He said, "I have discovered a feeling of control in my life, like my mind is now my own. I haven't had these strung out periods of thought and conversations with myself. My mind just feels quieted. My emotions have become stable, and I haven't felt depressed even once this week. My will is now mine, and I feel left alone. Not in a bad way. I'm not lonely. I just feel like I'm a single person, a unique person again. I feel capable of helping people and of handling myself at the same time. I've been so codependent for years, but this last week I haven't had the slightest need for someone. I'm at peace. And I feel this quiet, soft joy in my heart. Thank you for letting me your hope. I believe that I now have my own hope in Christ. Our key point today is that we should do all things in moderation. And our key verse, Psalm chapter 23, verses 1 to 3, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. God bless you. See you tomorrow for another episode of Spiritual Foundations for Life.